Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jared Rand, and welcome to the Global Guided Meditation Call for Sunday, July, you believe it, July 28, 2024, a little after 3:15 p.m. Eastern. One might ask, why do we, all of us, suffer? Why do we, what is this thing about having to, painful situations in life and all this stuff? Why do we have that? What's the purpose of it? Well, it's kind of like in some cases, it almost feels like a cattle prod, electrical shock almost to us, where it's almost like getting slapped upside the face harder than you've ever been in your life with some of the stuff that we're presented with in this life. And we all have and have had through this life, and most likely the rest of the lives that we have occupied, experienced things like this. And what do? Well, they'll either motivate us to go outside of the shell and learn and progress, or they'll cause us to go deeper, withdrawn. Either way. So we either choose to experience to learn, or we don't. We experience anyway, but many of us will choose to not learn from it. Have you ever noticed that sometimes some people will experience things more than once, similar, and you might say, it could be a friend or a family member or something, and say, haven't you learned yet? Why do you keep doing that over and over again? You know that you're going to end up having pretty much the same results with it. Haven't you learned not to do it that way? And that's just because of the ego mind and stubborn, we call it stubborn-headedness, right? Where some of us believe that, I keep doing it. Sooner or later, it's got to work, right? Makes sense. Now, because we're in this almost a paradox, right? We're in a cycle. We reincarnate thousands of times in different bodies, different lives. We have other ones of us in parallel dimensions, living lives, just like we are now. Little different, it's got to be different. It can't be identical to the life we're living. But most likely there's 1,000 of us living different lives in parallel dimensions. It's an endless cycle. What we focus on is this life and what we are doing in this life. And probably the greatest, as I've mentioned before, weapon that we have against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another. And William James made that comment. It's very true. When you look at, you choose. We all choose. No matter what, we choose, whether we do it consciously or unconsciously. We are choosing all the time. We are choosing which thought we're going to embrace, bring it into our reality, and experience it. Thoughts have no power unless we give them power. Okay? It's like the thought plugs into you, you give it the power, you form it, you bring it into your reality, and then you experience it. Now, with so many thoughts hitting us, over 60,000 a day, replay. And then the thoughts that we send out that we aren't aware we send out. And then the thoughts that some of us are aware that we send out. What are the key factors that influence the thoughts? Fear, okay? We have enthusiasm, we have fear, we have enthusiasm, we have excitement, happiness, those thoughts. All of them. They're all in one bag, so to speak. So we choose these emotions and feelings and how we're going to respond to each of the thoughts that we send out. And a lot of us don't know that we send them out. Remember, your thoughts you send out, you configure them, and you send them out. The thoughts that come in are not your thoughts. Never have been, never will be. You can see how busy of a highway it is, right? You can picture yourself standing on the Autobahn that's crammed with vehicles going 90, 100, 120 miles an hour, 130 miles an hour or more. And you're trying to figure out how you're going to get across that on foot. That's what it's like to have all these thoughts. Chances are, right, you're not going to make it across. Because the vehicle's speed is a lot more than yours, so you calculate it. Have you ever seen, obviously we've seen this, where an animal will cross the road, right? Doesn't make it. And it could be not that busy of a road. But the animal calculates it and figures that it's fast enough so it can get across the road without having its body destroyed. And a lot of times it doesn't make it. It believes it's fast enough. Comes out to be that it isn't. It's just like when we're looking, we're taught as kids, when you're ever going to cross the road, you got to look right, look left, look right, and then cross the road. When I was you remember years ago in grade school, we used to have safety patrol. And we would have the white belt with the badge, and we would wear reflective, like a jacket shirt. So we would help the other kids cross the roads and stop signs and everything. And you see, in our school, we had a grade school. It was military on the base that we just called on the base. And we did have that. We had helmets. We had lieutenant and captain and everything. And I was a captain. I had a white helmet. There was a military helmet, like a battle helmet, but it was spray painted white, and we had a badge, and we had that canvas belt that go across the chest and the waist, and then we had a coat, jacket, whatever, that was brightly colored, and we would help the other kids safely cross the crosswalks and everything when they were getting out of school. That walked home, because most of us walked home. We didn't use the buses because we were so close to the house. The school was right in the neighborhood, so we would walk to school and walk home most of the time. So it's no different. It's about this life. Most of us want it to be safe. We want to be able to cross that road without getting smacked by a vehicle, knocked over. And these are, unforeseen thoughts that come in, events that happen, that hit us, that we don't know about. We know about it, but not, how do you put it, not consciously. And it's always hitting us. And then we get so conditioned that when it doesn't hit us, we start thinking, geez, I haven't had anything major happen. I wonder why that is. Dangerous to think that way. Because they send that thought out, the universe is going to send you some more stuff. Will there come a time when we're able to know that? In other words, we will have mastered our thoughts to the extent where we know what thoughts that we're sending out, and we know what thoughts that we're embracing, and the ones that we don't. What will happen then? Will we still have these, gobsmacking situations that come into our lives that we aren't aware of that just catch us off guard? Right? Now, when that happens, now if you're aware and that happens, you have a choice. We all do. You either choose the rough road where it's going to be negative, ego-mind controlled trauma, or you embrace the higher frequency, which says, this is okay. I'm looking at this from the perspective of learning from it, not frightened of it, not stressed out about it, but learning from it. And all of us are motivated to be safe, right? Safe. Most of our fears are generated from what? Feeling unsafe. It can be in any direction, any intensity, depending on the situation. We want to be safe. We don't care to have things outside of our control happen. We've all had that too, more than once. None of us are exempt from it. And so we look at that, and then we say, is it manageable? Can we manage our thoughts? Because that's the culprit. It's our thoughts that create everything. It's absolute. It's our thoughts that create everything. Period. So, if you don't control your thoughts, they're going to control you. Period. Your responses to things, as trivial as they may be, how you respond to things, how you look at things, how you judge things, all snap back at you, because everything you do in that direction doesn't affect anything but you. Period. If you have the attitude that this is happening and that's happening with you, and you focus on it, and you keep saying that this is happening, that's happening, it's going to keep happening. If you're worried about something, you continually stress about it, and you continually worry about it, it's going to keep growing and advancing. That's all there is to it. And then you get more and more frustrated and more irritated and more upset, and it gets more and more. And more and more and more and more. And so then you get even more upset, more frustrated, more irritated, and it gets more and more and more. But see, we're doing it. We keep doing it. And we don't realize that it's going to keep coming. It's not going to stop. Until we say, wait a minute. Okay. Now, I've kind of figured this out. As I get irritated or upset about things, about myself, about other people, then it intensifies and increases. You ever notice that? Who's it affecting? You. And it's like a cascading event. What happens is that then it begins to affect and branches out on everything. Your whole perspective is clouded. Rather than taking the higher frequency from the standpoint, as I said, this is phenomenal. I'm learning on a continual basis, and I look at these things to learn from them, and I experience them, and they vanish. That's exactly what happens. But as we focus on them, and see, the more irritated we get, the more we focus on them, what do you think happens? The more of them are. Period. So, we choose one thought over another. We choose them. Now, does it mean that we're really clear on that? Not all the time. Sometimes I believe we are. Is it exact like that? Well, I'm going to choose this thought over that thought. Nah, not really. But you can get to that point where you go, no, not going to give this thought the time of day. This one, I will. This thought, I will. And it's slow. It's not lightning speed, but you progress. And as Epictetus said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. That is huge. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Most of us react in what way? A low vibrational frequency. Irritation, upset, judgment patterns, pathways. Okay? And if we stopped and stepped outside that circle and saw how ridiculous it is to give anything that's so trivial any amount of attention, any amount of our energy, because even the slightest thing can taint our receptivity and twist our perspective. And we don't know that. It could be just a tiny little thing. Instead of just letting go, we grip onto it tighter. The more you know yourself, the more clarity there is. Self-knowledge has no end. You don't come to an achievement. You don't come to a conclusion. It is an endless river. Krishnamurti. And as Marcus Aurelius, great quote from him, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. See, we don't realize how deeply programmed we have been and continue to be through thousands of lifetimes. Not just a few, not just this one, but all of them. You see how deep the ancestral roots and going all the way back. It's a constant programming. And I know this is something that people go, why do we have to do that? As Khalil Gibran said, out of suffering have emerged the strongest souls. The most massive characters are seared with scars. So if you come across somebody that you sense, you don't have to go in heavy conversation with them, but you just sense that their energetic frequency affords your understanding that they have experienced a lot. You just know it. You ever been around someone like that? It's not ego mind. It's just a heart-mindedness that your sense says, this being has experienced a lot. Doesn't mean they're all beat up and disheveled and depressed or anything. It just means you pick up on that frequency. Now, if they're heart-minded, they don't talk about it. They don't go into detail. They don't try to blab it out and try to impress people or any of that stuff. Okay? And you notice everybody's got a story. You ever know that everybody, they're going to tell you a story about the past, about their past, something that they'd experienced and encountered. And everybody's got stories. And you ever notice there's always a story that's going to be shared by someone. Okay. Why is that? That's how we've been programmed. So you listen to the story, and there might be a few crumbs in there that you can learn from. Because we're all storytellers. We all have stories about certain events and things that we've done and experienced. That's what happens. What if we didn't have stories? What if we just talked about now? And releasing all of these pains and sorrows, disappointments, trying to rationalize with ourselves throughout life on some of the decisions we've made, some of the moves we've made, and we're constantly trying to reassure ourselves that it was the right one. Don't worry, that was right. I stand by it. I back it. I do the same thing again. These are all rational statements to try to shore up the ego mind's response. And it was the ego mind that was guiding us at the time that we made those decisions and carried them out. It wasn't the heart mind. It was the ego mind. So we spend most of our lives in some of these things, repeating them, saying that we did the right thing. Right? And none of us are exempt from that. We do that. We say, well, I believe I did the right thing, and I would do the same thing again. And that's a reassurance of your doubt that you feel on something that you did do that maybe you don't feel you should have done. So what do? You back it, you support it constantly throughout your life so that you feel more secure and satisfied. It's a continual vibrational frequency. How many of us can act like a duck and let anything roll off our back? Not let it bother us. It doesn't mean we're lifeless, unemotional beings. It just means that we choose things to do. We choose them. It's a choice. Is it right or wrong? Doesn't make any difference. That's all made up in our society. It's an experience. If you have an oops experience, you had an oops experience. You see, if you have a hey experience, you have a hey experience. But we all have this understanding, and it's there. It is there, and I think a lot of us just do not pay much attention to it. It bubbles up at times. Where we know that we're going to leave. It's there. It's there. It doesn't show itself much, but it's there. But we kind of, ever had something where you just, no matter when it shows up, you just kind of push it back? You say, I'm not going to concentrate on that. I am not going to interact with that. So just go away. Shoo fly, don't bother me. But it keeps coming up. Now, all this in this life that we've continued to create and experience leads to now. This very moment on this particular planet, in this species, civilization, is experiencing, going through. It's a culmination of tens of thousands of years of the collective mind, the collective consciousness, pure consciousness. And see, when you look at that, it's a progression of our experiences through many lifetimes. Then we get to the point where we come clear enough, where we know it's time for us to ascend. Now, it doesn't mean that all of us are on that page yet. Some of us are, straight on, more and more joining the club, so to speak. And as that happens, we begin to understand that, my vibrational frequency is good. I am going to pay attention to that, focus on that, to increase it as much as I can. Now, I have been on the other side of that. I know what that's all about. I've chosen to go on this side now and focus my attention on that. Increase your vibration. Where you would normally get upset, cantankerous, irritable, you don't. You say to yourself, why? Why would I spend my energy on it? Does that move you or take you anywhere except down? No, it does. That's right. It takes you down. So why would we respond to anything that would bring us down? Well, it's habit, as I've said. We get in the habit of it. We do it so much that we just don't realize we're doing it. And there's a key thing that all of us will eventually experience. Okay? Is that when you're really free, I mean, not the fake free, not the program free, but when you're really free is when other people do not bother you. Their comments do not bother you. What they think of you does not bother you. And I'm not saying superficially or pretending, but hook, line, sinker. Boom. It just doesn't affect you, really, in any way. You know, and that's a good thing. You know why it's a good thing? Because you are evolving to understand that it's all about you. It ain't about them. They're different reflections of us. We're all reflections of each other in different ways. So it's about you. Once we get to that, then you'll be free. Because what happens? In order to move yourself into that frequency, and of that frequency, you will master the mind. You will master the ego mind and your thoughts. And when you do that, you're with the God that you are. You're no longer living from the ego mind, worrying and stressing and fearing. Ever. See, it's gone. What, does that make you a numb nothing? No. Quite the contrary. You'll exude happiness and joy because you will discover that it's within you, not outside of you. You'll live in happiness, joy, and bliss. You will live it. Are we living it now? No, because we have chosen, in some way, shape, or form, to be in the opposite of that which is outside of us. And have short stints of happiness, joy, and bliss. Not long term. But this is the only way, there isn't any other way to discover this. And going within. If you walked into a coliseum full of people, okay? Picture this. And you come out into the center stage. So it's a circle, right? And everybody's looking at you. Well, that's a lot of energy. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but it is. And they're all holding up signs. They're saying you're a creep and you're, wow, you're really nasty and all this stuff. Would that affect you? I know it sounds like a crazy question. But the point I'm bringing in the analogy is that that's how we are now. The Colosseum is the planet. The people are all around us. And I've watched this so many times where people are so affected, but they'll sit there with a smirky attitude and say, oh, it doesn't bother me. Doesn't bother me at all. But it does. Okay? That's another mask that we'll wear to convince others that it doesn't bother us. But it does. Might bother us behind closed doors, but it bothers us. And why it bothers us is because we want to be accepted. We want to be loved. We want to be nurtured, cared for, respected. Right? When you walk somewhere, say you go into a store or some kind of service for you that you're tending to, it could be anything, right? And you go in there and you're treated like the dirt on the carpet in the front of the desk area of the receptionist. That you're insignificant, that you don't exist almost, except when you give them money. You don't have a good feeling about that, do you? Really? It affects you, bothers you. Would you go back there? Most likely not. you wouldn't. We all, see, this is what's interesting. We all want to be treated special. We do. Not ridiculously or anything, but special. That you're tended to and you're respected. And it's a wonderful experience in that context. When you're not, your attitude is what? You start spewing things like, wow, what a crappy place. I remember coming back here. I cannot believe the service. It's horrible. Treat others as you would like to be treated. That's an old one, right? What happens when you don't treat others the way you want to be treated? You get more and more of the same stuff. You can tell the difference between someone who loves what they're doing and someone who doesn't, right? You ever been in that situation where you're going, wow. And sometimes you will come out and say, do you really like what you're doing? And you wait, you look at their eyes. And they go, yeah, it's not bad. Yeah. Tips are great or whatever it is. But you get this sense that they just aren't happy. They're doing it. Well, I'm a single parent and I've got to put food on the table and roof over our head. What would happen if none of us had those challenges, ever? What would happen? And then all of us, say we've never ever had any of that stuff in our lives. It was just a soft walk through life. No disturbances, no surprises, period. What'd we learn? You'd learn. Just learning by living every day. But would it be adventuresome? Yeah, to some. Yeah, it probably would be. Would we atrophy because we weren't presented with other challenges that really motivated us to grow? It's like, say you get in a relationship, right? Doesn't work. Okay? Doesn't work. You just, either side just didn't work. So you go into another relationship later. And that didn't work. And you go into another one. You go through life. Then you get to the point where you go, you ever notice this, is that people who have had relationship experiences after a while will start comparing the next one to all of those relationships. Right? And what happens? Doesn't work out. So why is that? It's because we don't know ourselves and we don't love ourselves. You don't have to be with someone, really, when you love yourself. Genuinely, deeply, and eternally. You don't, see, what is it? It's ego, mind, insecurity. We don't feel safe. We feel lonely. Being alone and lonely are two different things. And so we want to interact with someone. And many of us will just hook up with someone and stay with them for 50 years and really not love them. But it's that secure feeling that it gives us. Then when they leave the body, we feel lost, depressed. That lowers our frequency way, way down. And it will attract all the scudge into our lives. You see how it's all interlinked and connected? It really is. It is a delicately detailed, intricate weaving of all that there is, ever has been, ever will be, ever beyond, and forever. And we could go on for generations and years discussing it. But to condense it and to simplify it, the things that we know now is now, not yesterday and tomorrow. We've learned that when we go into those other areas, we're going to attract other stuff. And we've learned enough, I believe, that some of us have learned enough, experienced enough. And I see it happening slowly, but it's happening. Where the values that we used to have, what we focused on, what we concentrated on in this life, they're just not front and center anymore. Well, then what is? Learning about who and what you are. And 50 years ago, it was kind of a joke. It isn't a joke anymore. More and more people are taking that step and saying, I want to find out who and what I am. I know that I'm not this body. I've figured that out. I'm not this body. I am not the ego mind. I'm something else that's in this body. Now, I'm not sure what it is, but I want to find out. I'm not frightened about it. I don't have a fear about it. I know it's an unknown, but it's also a heck of an adventure. I have an inkling that I believe that I am pure consciousness in a body. And I'm experiencing a physical material world which I had something to do with in creating. So I can experience it. How do you think this universe is a massive, intricate, hyper-generated holographic design? What did that? What? What created it? We did, along with all the other parts of us throughout existence and beyond. We created this universe. Why? Why would we do that? To experience. That's the bottom line. To experience. So as a whole, as the one, which we all are, we experience and experience and experience, and we evolve, we advance, we move on. We go to different, higher and higher levels of divine perfection as the gods that we are. How do you think we were able to create this universe? That's not arrogance. See, that's not ego mind. It's not even anywhere near there. It's a knowing that we had a role in creating this universe. And now we're all experiencing it. And we're all part of it. It's us and we're it. And that's how it works. I know that, if you believe that your mind's going to be able to comprehend that, it won't. It's too small. Okay? At times, even a heart mind can't comprehend things. So what do? You go into pure consciousness. You go into the now. You go into the vastness of space. In the quiet time of this meditation, visualize yourself out into space, the huge expanse of existence, the blackness and the darkness, right? And you see all this light around, all these lights and colors, because they are. It's not black and white out there, believe it or not. It is a cornucopia of vibrant colors. So, and you're floating out there. And you're not falling, or you're supported, and you're existing. Your body's not choking on lack of oxygen, right? You're just there. And you're experiencing the vastness and the immensity of who and what you are. And be in that space through the quiet time in this meditation. I'll join you in the meditation. I'll return to close us out. Take an easy and slow breath in through the nose. And an easy and slow breath out from the mouth. Remain still, focused on your breath rising and falling. We will, all of us, eventually deeply realize that we are amazing light beings. So for the next 24 hours, I invite you to explore something very powerful and life-changing. Imagine that every single human being on this planet appreciates you, totally accepts you, and loves you exactly the way you are. That's right. Just for 24 hours, imagine that everyone you meet is so happy to finally get to connect with you. Deep down, everyone absolutely adores the divine energy you radiate. Your light is shining away, reminding them how beautiful and amazing this life truly is. Take this with you for the rest of the day into the evening and night, the following morning, and we will return here Monday, July 29, 2024, a little after 3:15 p.m. Eastern, to continue our global guided meditation call. Be gentle, kind, generous, and humble with yourself at all times. Be in the highest of the highest high, deepest of the deepest deepest, purest of the purest purest, eternal gratitude at all times, no matter what's happening around you or within you. Open your heart and allow the magic to flow in.